support is invaluable. The remit of the committee is the upkeep of the membership database and matters relating thereto. The total number of members recorded on the database at December 2023 is 4,641. Mrs. Clavia Watson-Reed continued as Facebook administrator. The subcommittee continued to be challenged by communication issues. Many pensioners cannot be reached as they have no telephone or email addresses. There's also the matter of reconciliation of deductions that were above the $100 for dues. A newsletter was sent out in December. Special mention must be made of the Manchester chapter for their contribution of articles to the Facebook page. All chapters are encouraged to share their programs and activities. Efforts were underway to get our web page, courtesy of the Ministry of Finance and Planning, up and running. We must say special thanks to Ms. Weeks for her guidance in this matter. Other matters. 56th AGM. The 56th Annual General Meeting reviewing the period January to December 2023 was held at the Terra Nova Hotel on May 31st, 2023. Guest speaker, Ms. Delia Harris, was well received. She reminded the pensioners that as nation builders, they had contributed immensely to the progress of Jamaica and deserve to be celebrated. The members received and accepted the various reports, which included audited financial statement, Board of Trustees, Internal Audit Committee, and Nominating Committee, after which elections were conducted for the posts of President, First and Second Vice Presidents. Courtesy calls. Members of the Executive paid calls on the Most Honorable Andrew Owens, ON, PC, MP, Prime Minister of Jamaica, on August 15, 2023. Various needs of the associations were put to him. The urgent need for a home for the association was paramount in the wide and varied discussion that was had. Promise was made to 2 properties that could be considered. 3 housing solutions were also promised to the association and for needy pensioners and for pensioners who have land on which the houses would be built. And we say thanks to our PM. The Honorable Mark Golding, MP, Leader of the Opposition, was visited on September 5th, 2023. He was sympathetic to the plight of the pensioner. He offered suggestions for interaction with the Council for the Elderly. Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., MP, Minister of Labour and Social Security, was visited on September 6, 2023. He had been asked by the Prime Minister to identify an office for the association. This discussion was wide-ranging. Some of the matters aired were accessibility to government building for the old and physically challenged, concession for elderly at government agencies, length of time it takes to process death benefits, care packages for the elderly, and recreation spaces for the elderly. And I know that our Minister, Charles, is looking at our office space. The courtesy call with Dr. the Honorable Nigel Clark, MP, Minister of Finance and the Public Services, was not held due to circumstances beyond our control. President Spence Jarrett visited the Manchester chapter in October 2023. On the occasion of their AGM, she brought greetings and conducted election of officers. Efforts were ongoing to ensure the constitution of all chapters conforms to that of the parent body. The Sagicor Supplemental Plus Health Plan continued to increase in number of pensioners enrolled. There is need for more persons to join if the plan is to remain viable. That's a plea to all of us pensioners. Acknowledgements. The Management Committee extends sincere appreciation and gratitude to the following: the Government of Jamaica, the Accountant General and members of staff, the Financial Secretary and staff, Pensions Department, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Registrar and staff of the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies, Sagicor Life Limited, Mrs. Latoya Mayhew Carr, Miss Ikeda Johnson and staff, the JPA Monitoring Committee, the Secretarial staff, Mrs. Joy Manahan, Administrator, Miss Neda Scott, Database Manager, Miss Khadija Freights, Clerical Assistant, Mrs. Clavia Watson-Reed, Facebook Administrator, Mrs. Weeks, Website Facilitator. Finally, to our loyal members who have supported our planned activities, consulted with us, made suggestions for improvement, and continued to inspire us to serve better and seek creative ways to fulfill our shared purposes, that of promoting the general welfare and well-being of pensioners. I thank you.
Kind of can't clap that. It sounds like we're talking now. You can hear me? Can you hear me? That's how you sounded with your clap. Thank you very much for your applause. We now want to thank Madam President for having presented the report of the Managing Committee. As you know, the Managing Committee is the managing body of the association, comprising the executive that you heard about earlier, also the chairman of all the chapters, in addition to 4 elected members and the immediate past president. That's your managing committee. We now open the floor for any question or comment on the president's report.
Any questions? Don't be afraid to ask, you know. Not because our PM is here. Any questions for us? Have we done what you have asked? I see a hand from Mr. Spencer, from chairman from the Clarendon chapter. Mr. Spencer. They need a mic. Need a mic. Mr. Spencer, I can just, yes, it has been addressed. It will be forwarded to the Prime Minister's office. And we have Prime Minister as his permanent secretary, Major General Rocky Mead, ambassador, to deal with the matter. And I'm in touch with him. What he asked? The question he asked, where are we in terms of the housing solution? And I've just answered him. Because we are finishing that, you know, we're going back to the Prime Minister. And being the generous man he is, he's not going to tell us no. A question.
The lady, please.
The lady was before you, Mr. Houghton. I'm not going to say, madam, that they don't know about it. Because I can tell you what we have been doing. I was first vice president of the association. And we used to go into the offices, the departments, the ministries, and we have what is called a retirement seminar. So we introduce ourselves to them. And we bring in a whole team from NHT, NIS, Sagicor, a whole team of us going and speak about the benefits of being a member of the association. We have been doing this and it is continuing. What we have, some persons are saying that because they are members of the teachers group, they don't want to be members of both groups. And this is the problem we are having. And some even said to me, we are getting the same benefits, why be a member? So I know Mr. James, Superintendent James, retired, is dealing with that, and he's going out. We has a target to meet for this year. And so he's going to be going out, assisted by other executive members, to see if we can get some other members in. But the onus is also on the chairpersons in there, because you're inside of your parish, to help us to get persons in. Linstead chapter, Mrs. Richards, back over to you. Try and get some persons from Linstead, because we know there's a lot of persons, teachers and civil servants who have retired that are in your area. And I know you will. You and Mr. Henry will do that.
Mr. Henry. District Trust of St. Catherine. Yes. St. Catherine Chapter.
Manchester. Portmore is a chapter.
For pensioners, sometimes it is difficult for us to travel to Spanish Town for meetings. And I'm putting the issue forward of precedence. If Fort Worth can be given a chapter without being awarded a parish status, it is the same thing that should be awarded to Linstead. Now, I intend for probably the next meeting, I don't know the Prime Minister's agenda, I don't know the government agenda as it relates to the hastening of Portmore to become a chapter. But on a parish. But until then, we need to consider the issue of Linstead a chapter as long as Portmore is a chapter and has not attained parish status.
And I will respond to you, Mr. Hopton Henry. And I'm going to say, since you have such a strong case, you must write a letter to the association, to the executive members, put your case forward, and we will look at it. To say that Linstead is the only cluster is incorrect. Manchester has a cluster. So we will await your letter to us, and we will address the matter. Thank you, sir.
Well, committee, but I don't know in what way that was dealt with because to become a member, you have to pay a monthly fee, due, and if you were not a government worker, employee, how would that be possible for a spouse or member who was not a government worker to become a member? I would like that to be explained.
And you said IPP Brown mentioned that. I will ask him to answer you.
The report about pension, what is it? President Brown explained that membership was open to spouses and associates of pensioners. That is a fact. It is one of the rules in the association that allow for membership to be open to those persons. I'm not so sure what your question is, but the question, to say that they are open to become members, it is correct. If we have anybody who wants to become a member, it is simple. They apply, and the person who is the spouse, who is the member, because of how we make the payment, the dues, the person who is the member will make the payment of the dues for both that person and the spouse. Yes, sir? Oh, it can't be. I don't know what you mean by that.
It can be because the rules allows it. The rules allows it. Until the rules are changed, it can be. Over here.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, friends. Floyd Banks from St. Andrew. Page 24, under membership, promotion, and education. It says the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic have not yet been fully overcome and continues to serve as not all the prime factors can regain their pre-COVID vibrancy. I just want to find out what are some of the challenges being faced in terms that they are not confirming, because I would think that the person would want to come back into the fight, come back in their former state, and come back together again.
I'm sure you'll agree with me that since COVID, the effects of COVID is still being felt. Some of our members are as young. Yeah, I regard myself as young. So, but some of them are, right, Tanisha? So, some of them are not as, and with COVID and the effects of COVID, they had effects of walking, speech, all sorts of things. Here at Kingston and St. Andrew, for example, where I am the chairperson for many years now, we used to boast an attendance of 100 and over every meeting. My attendance now at Kingston and St. Andrew is 40. When you check out, and we have been visiting those who are, we call them shut-ins now because they can't move about. And we just, there's a lot to be thankful for, and we have to raise our hands and say, to God be the glory, great things he has done. Because some of us are able to move about, and some of us didn't feel the effects of COVID. Others have done so. So we find out going through, and my second VP, Mr. Michael James, SSP, he will tell you that in St. Elizabeth, we have lost most of our members. St. James is in a little crisis. Kingston and St. Andrew, the largest group in JGPA, we have lost some of our members. And this is due to the effects of COVID. And so we are here trying to bring back and build back
Thank you very much, Mr. Masters of Ceremony. Let me acknowledge your president, June Spence Jarrett, and the executives of your organization and your management committee, our Accountant General, Mrs. Anya Jones, our public sector representatives from the various ministries and departments who may be here, and of course, you, our government pensioners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure for me to address you this morning. And as I sat and listened to the report and to the questions that were generated from the report, I must say that I was very impressed by the level of management and organization of this grouping. But it also struck me that Jamaica has an incredible repository of talent in our retirees. It is untapped, but if we could find a way to utilize it, it could be quite useful for the society. And I was giving some thoughts to how this could be done, and I may share a few of them as they mature in rumination. Before I start my presentation, however, I must acknowledge the impact of the recent Hurricane Beryl. And I trust that all our pensioners were spared any significant damage, and indeed that none of our pensioners lost their lives as a result of this hurricane. Beryl has left a significant impact on many of our communities, particularly St. Thomas, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and Hanover. The storm has caused loss and damage that we are still grappling with. Our hearts goes out to those who have lost loved ones and those whose homes and livelihoods have been adversely affected. In this challenging time, we have witnessed the remarkable unity, kindness, and resilience of our people. And together, we will rebuild with the spirit of community and solidarity that defines the Jamaican spirit. But as I reflected on the passage of Hurricane Gilbert, many of you would be active in the public service at that time, 36 years ago. And as I reflected on my son at home with me from university during the hurricane, I said, young bud don't know storm. 36 years ago, when we had our worst ever hurricane impact, there is an entire generation that would have no clue as to what it means to be impacted by a hurricane. And since then, since Gilbert, we have had some other impactful weather events. We have had Hurricane Ivan, and that would have been 17 years ago. And we have had Hurricane Dean and Gustav about 16 years ago. So it has been some time since Jamaica has been impacted in any significant way by a weather event. So I know that my pensioners here would have a different expectation in terms of the speed of recovery based upon what would be the benchmark of hurricane impact, which would be Hurricane Gilbert. But there is indeed an entirely new generation of Jamaicans whose expectations are far different based upon what they would have experienced. And it is important that there is this social conversation happening so that as a society we have one defined perspective as to how the society recovers from crisis and disaster. The need for, I don't want to use the word patience, because it is important that public officials and public entities are always feeling the pressure from the society to recover, so we keep moving faster. But there has to be a level of understanding of what is possible and what is not. So, yes, the public must constantly make their needs known, constantly ask for information. And public entities and public officials must constantly be accessible and provide information. And I believe that it is in that process that a level of understanding can develop in the society. But I think our pensioners who have the experience, who have been through it, who know it, who understand it, can help to guide the public conversation about these matters. Because as I said, I was reflecting on and doing some reading as well on the recovery from Hurricane Gilbert. I think we can say that having been hit by this natural disaster, though it is in no way comparable to Hurricane Gilbert, it is clear that we have improved, without question, our preparedness and our immediate relief response. This is not to say, however, that we must not constantly be in a process of improvement. And that is why we have taken a policy decision to empanel a committee to review our preparedness. Don't worry about that paper. To improve our preparedness and make the changes that need to be made now, so that if we are hit by another disaster, which is quite likely in this hurricane period, that we are not just prepared, but we are ready to act. And so in a few days from now, I will be naming the committee to do the review. And I'm mentioning it here because I'm going to ask your president to recommend someone, because I'm certain amongst your membership would be persons who were involved in previous disaster preparedness responses, who could be very useful in giving us a perspective, your experience and knowledge on how we are treating with disaster response now. So, Madam President, you should expect a little note from me to look within your membership as to someone who could be knowledgeable in this area, who we could appoint to such a review committee. Now, since my administration took office in 2016, we have made it a priority to improve the welfare of our esteemed pensioners. We recognize the challenges many of you face, and we have been working tirelessly to address these issues. Significant steps have been taken to ensure that your needs are met, and we remain committed to providing support and the resources you deserve. And I also want to say that I read all the emails that I get about things like, which was mentioned, more sponsorship and subsidy for your health insurance, increasing your pensions, and those things. I get maybe 3 or 4 emails every month from random pensioners who have gotten access to my email, and they keep sending me emails. And I read them. In addition to what is being sent straight to OPM, Office of the Prime Minister, and my Chief of Staff would collate and then place in front of me the list of emails. And during the budget period especially, there was a flurry of emails to say, Prime Minister, remember the pensioners. I see you have given increases to the public sector workers. What about the pensioners? So I want to say to you that your appeals are not in vain, and it is not as if they are going unseen. They are being incorporated in the general policy making. We can't do everything all at once, but we do take into consideration the appeals that are made. Sometimes the responses don't come in the way you would want it, but they come in ways that we can afford and that it is equitable for everyone. So I wanted to give you the assurance that this body is not a body that we ignore or don't listen to. We listen to this body, we pay attention to what you say, and as best as we can, we will respond. So, as a result of some of the appeals that were made, effective April 1, 2024, and you all know about this already, the pension and age relief income tax exemptions have been increased from $80,000 to $250,000 each. The last time these exemptions were increased was in 2010, and that was from $62,500 to $80,000 each, which was a mere increase of 28% at the time. The increase that we have granted is 212%. So I wanted to point out that it was, maybe I shouldn't point this out, but it was as a result of your lobbying and your appeals that when we were putting the entire budget together, that we were very thoughtful about how we could give some benefit and relief to our pensioners. So this adjustment is crucial in helping you to maintain your quality of life and meet your daily needs. We recognize that ensuring financial security for our pensioners is not just a matter of policy, but a fundamental right for those who have given so much to our nation. Although the National Health Fund benefits a wider pool than pensioners, it is crucial to recognize the significant strides we have made in 2023 to support your health and well-being. We increased the drug subsidy for over 350,000 active NHF beneficiaries and more than 21,000 beneficiaries of the Jamaica Drug for the Elderly program, JADEP. Additionally, the NHF 1,600 subsidy for one prostate-specific antigen test per year, previously available only to men 40 years and older with an NHF card, is now extended to all Jamaican men 40 years and older. And we encourage all our men 40 years and older to go and get your specific antigen test. This is for your prostate diagnosis, your prostate health. The NHF also offers a $1,300 subsidy towards the pap smear test for all Jamaican female aged 21 and older, in keeping with screening guidelines. The NHF has also expanded its card program to include 5 new health conditions: lung cancer, colorectal cancer, multiple myeloma, Parkinson's disease, and thyroid disease, bringing the total number of conditions covered to 22. This expansion represents an estimated $450 million in additional subsidies benefiting approximately 47,000 Jamaicans. With these new addition, 10 new medications are now available under the benefit program. Moreover, the NHF signed 61 contracts valued at $27 billion for the procurement of essential drugs under the 2023-2026 Pharmaceutical Awards Program. These efforts demonstrate our unwavering commitment to improving the health and quality of life of all Jamaicans, including our well-respected and well-deserving pensioners. Now, effective September 2023, the enhanced benefits under the Government Pensioners Administrative Service Health Scheme, JPASO, our comprehensive health insurance plan specifically designed for government workers, government pensioners. This improved plan provides access to a wide range of medical services, ensuring that you can receive the necessary care without the burden of excess cost. Your health and well-being are our top priorities, and this initiative underscores our unwavering commitment to you. Importantly, these enhanced benefits were achieved without any increase in your monthly subscription. And so I note the request for greater support and greater subsidy. I noted it, and I heard the cry, we need more. So I wrote it down, and we are not yet approaching the new budget cycle, and it is not appropriate for me to, on the fly, at a podium, to commit government fiscally. But it is something that I will bring the necessary ministries together, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and the Ministry of Finance. And we will look at it in a serious way to see what other thing we can do to increase the benefits for our pensioners. And I know you're listening keenly to me going through all the things we have done. Because, you know, we understand how it is. Nobody is going to say, yes, the government did this, that, and the other. Because that might just make the government too comfortable. Right? And that's how our democracy works. You keep the government on its toes so that we are always trying to see, you know, how we can improve benefits. But on the other hand, government also has to balance the fiscal capabilities with the needs and requirements, right? Because if government overpromises and it is unable to deliver, and it tries to deliver on an overpromise, it is only going to be bad for everyone. Right? So we have to make sure that whatever it is we commit to, we can sustainably deliver it. And that is what you have here in this government, that we don't overpromise. We examine it carefully, and if it can be done, we will do it. Now, the recent improvements in salaries for public sector workers as a result of the public sector compensation review will have a significant positive impact on the pensions of these workers upon their retirement. It is worth noting that the effect of including a number of separate allowances in the salary has the effect of increasing pensionable earnings. And that might not be of comfort to the present group. But I'm going to, you will see why I raised it in the presentation. The greater percentage of one's salary that is pensionable, the higher the pension payment when one retires. better pay today results in better pensions when one retires. The enhancement ensures that our public sector employees will enjoy greater financial security and stability in their retirement years, reflecting our commitment to their long-term well-being. So, yes, this is something that has been raised with me by pensioners, looking on and saying, you know, the next generation of pensioners, they will be doing much better by virtue of the compensation review than our present pensioners. So yes, you can say that as a result of the compensation review, the future security of our public sector workers will be much better. But there are some caveats to that. It will only be much better if we control inflation. All right, that is something that we all have to pay attention to. The second caveat is that it will only be much better if, and especially for those pensioners who are not just going to rely on the government pension, but are going to save, if you actually save smartly. So there are two important caveats here. First is the government's management of inflation, and the second is how you manage your own savings. Right? Those are the two important criteria. And one of the things that we have been doing as a government, and which we have done better than any other government, is to manage inflation. And it is our intention to keep inflation within the target band. The target band is 4 to 6%. And if we can keep it within the target band, then those new pensioners who will come in based upon the new salaries, they will have a much better quality of life because they will have a much higher disposable income and purchasing power by virtue of the control of inflation. So were I a pensioner, and I'm maybe a couple of years away from that now, one of the things I would want to see of any government is their plan, their fiscal and monetary strategy towards managing inflation. Because inflation affects fixed income persons like pensioners the most. So it's one thing to say we want more benefits, or we want access to more services, but what needs to get into our political economy, meaning the things that we vote on as pensioners, is what is the government doing to control inflation. Right? That is how I think our pensioners should be thinking. Which government can control inflation now and in the future? And then the second thing is, which government can control the cost of living? They're two different things, and we tend to use inflation as a proxy for cost of living. But they're not necessarily the same thing. But you want to see which government is trying to structure the economy in such a way that the things you need to survive are affordable. All right, so so managing inflation is a part of controlling cost of living, but there are many other things that go into cost of living. So for example, and I've used this example before, what is the government doing to ensure that you are able to access health care, medicines? These are things that are important for pensioners, right? That will help with the cost of your living. What is the government doing to ensure that you have access to public transportation in a reasonable way? that helps your cost of living. And so these are the things that as pensioners now you would look at your government and judge or become part of your, what we call the political economy. What is it that you are going to vote on for your government? And I'm saying to you as pensioners that this administration has been very thoughtful in not just the provision of benefits, but also in the management of the economy to give the stability so that whatever little income you may be getting, that will have maintenance of its purchasing power, and you will be able to access the services that will guarantee your quality of life. And that is what this administration has been doing. And I want to say to our pensioners that you are always forefront in our thoughts as we try to structure the economy so that you are able to survive in it. Now, I'm not here saying that it is a perfect economy. I'm not here saying that there are problems and challenges. But I think that we should recognize where changes have been made, where improvements have been made, and where persons are getting benefits now that they were not getting before. Because if that is not done, we will have a one-sided conversation that not now go on when it is not true. A lot of things are happening. And as I have stood here and I've read out a lot of the things that we have done. Now, as we talk about things happening, the last time I met with the executive of your association, they raised the issue of pensioners who were on hard times, particularly some of them have nowhere to live. And I believe, June, you had told me of a case. It was that you mentioned a case to me of a pensioner who had nowhere to live. And I said that we would help using the new social housing program. So today I'm going to make a commitment to you that I'm going to give to the executive the ability to recommend 2 beneficiaries per year under the new social housing program. So they would have to meet the requirements. There is no public benefit that is given without assessment. So we have to assess that the person actually needs the benefit. So we would depend on the association to make the recommendation, and this would have to be someone who either has land or has permission to use land that we can build on, because we can't build on land that there is no permission. So they have to have access to some land. And we have to assess their need circumstances. All right? So it has to be a genuine need. And so we're going to give you this recommendation of 2 per year from your association. Now, while we have made significant progress, we must also address a pressing issue that affects not just our country but the entire world, and that is the retirement savings crisis. This global challenge impacts a growing number of individuals who are financially unprepared for retirement. As the life expectancy increases as a result of advances in medicine, public health, and living standards, this concern becomes even more critical. It is imperative that we tackle the issue proactively in Jamaica, ensuring that our citizens are better equipped to secure their financial futures and enjoy dignified retirement. One of the most effective ways to combat this crisis is by encouraging our people to start saving and investing for retirement as soon as they enter the workforce. Educating them about the importance of financial planning and the benefits of compound interest is crucial. By starting early, they can build a substantial nest egg that will provide financial security in their later years. For those already in the workforce, regardless of age, it is imperative to begin making decisions now for financial security upon retirement. It is never too late to start. I urge my Jamaican family to take action now and start saving, no matter how small it is, no matter how small. And that is why in all the programs that we have to promote the culture of work, we have several programs where we are bridging between school and work. So we have, for example, the summer employment program. We have the LEGS program, learning, earning, giving, and saving. We have the new, we have several programs. One of them is the Jamaica National Service Corps, the JNSC. And in all of those programs, whenever they work, even if it is only a stipend, we take a certain percentage of the salary and we put it into compulsory savings for them. Now, I have had a youngster under one of the HOPE programs who was working on a construction site as a HOPE worker, and we took out of his pay, I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000 every fortnight. And at the end of his internship, his apprenticeship, he got something like $150,000. And I met him just randomly, and he was explaining to me that that was the first time he had ever had so much money one time. He said he was upset that they were taking the money out of his pay. But when his program was finished and he got his $150,000, he was so happy. He didn't know what to do with it. He wanted to go and buy an iPhone. Anyway, he said he didn't buy the iPhone. He used some of it to buy some tools, because he was going on to do, I think it was masonry at heart. So he bought some tools with it, and he put away some. And it's just a good story about saving. It is hard to take the money now that you could consume and put it away. But you're only going to see the value of it when you actually reach that rainy day. And you have it. So again, I'm soliciting your help in carrying on this conversation in the society. Remember, I asked you earlier to carry on a conversation about reasonableness and understanding in the society based upon the experiences that you have had. So I'm now going to ask you to carry on this conversation with the younger ones coming up about being prepared for the future. And being prepared for the future requires us to save, no matter how small it is, to put aside something. And you can be very, influential, especially on your family members and people who you're mentoring. So I asked the association, and maybe I hear you talk about your Facebook page and your community. Maybe this is something you could take on as a special project, helping the conversations in the society. A lot of conversations going on. Much of it is misled. And the public conversations really need to be guided by the wisdom that is in this room. So, we have been doing our part as a government in trying to develop programs for financial literacy and to encourage savings. But as I've said, the best way for this to happen is to have, our retirees participating in the conversation and helping our young people to understand the importance of saving. I also wanted to point out very quickly, while I still have your attention, that as our economy improves, we will make the necessary allocations towards improving the benefits that you receive, particularly the benefits that will reduce the cost of living to you. I'm putting it this way because I want you to recognize the connection between our economic prospects and the benefits that you receive. For a very long time in Jamaica, the conversation has been, we want more, but there hasn't been an equal chorus to say, we will produce more. And with that disconnection, what happened to us in wanting more is that we ended up borrowing more. And until we develop a culture that says we are self-reliant, and I know that some of you here would remember the 1970s, self-reliance. I am a firm believer in self-reliance. I don't take it lightly. Some people might interpret it as a political theme. For me, it is liberty, is the way how I live. I rely and believe on my people and myself. I believe in self-reliance. So until we understand what that means, that we have to take the posture that nobody from outside is going to come and provide for us. We have to provide for ourselves. We must be able to stand on our own 2 feet and face the crises and challenges that will come. And the only way to do that is to produce. That is what self-reliance means. We are relying on our own production. And it is important, again, the incredible repository of experience and knowledge that is in this room to help to guide the public discourse and the expectations that exist, because you, all of you, would have lived through the period of the 70s, the difficult periods of the Jamaican economy, and you would be able to compare how the society is changing. And if we are going to make genuine, long-standing, long-lasting changes in our society, we need not just to change institutions, but we need to change culture. So, as we ask for more, the other side of the equation must be, how are we going to produce more? That is it. And whenever I raise the issue, it's almost like, I don't want to hear this subject really. But it's a conversation that the family needs to have. The family needs to have that conversation about our productivity. And yes, it is not just for me to talk about it. There are certain actions that we need to take to improve productivity. And one of the things that we have done so far We haven't really explained the policy and strategy to the public, but as it unfolds and people begin to see the impact, then it's easier to explain. So for this administration, one of the first things that we wanted to do was to rapidly increase employment. And you would have seen that we have now moved from, teens unemployment. We are now at 4.2% unemployment. And we're going to continue to increase our employment numbers as our economy expands. And as our economy expands, that's a sign of productivity. Now we need to reach to another level now, which is having the unused capability of our labor force absorbed into the economy. Now we need to increase the level of production of each worker. So strategy number one was to get all our labor resources employed, and then once they are employed and involved in the workforce, then we seek to improve the productivity of the workforce. And that will give us another level of economic growth. That will move our economic growth trajectory out of the 1 to 2% region to the 3 to 4 to 5% region. And then the other change in our society, which will increase even further, is the integration of technology, the improvement of systems, the joining up of government, the reduction of red tape and bureaucracy, and that will give us another elevation. And then we can move on to now innovation, meaning the creation of new products and new technology and new services, and that will give us another bump. For our pensioners, for persons who are no longer in the labor force, my own view is that there is still a way for you to participate in this new economy. And I think that we will have to work out more deliberate and direct strategies as to how we can leverage the knowledge and skills that you have to support the growth of the economy. And this can be done particularly in helping us with training, helping us with reviews. And nowadays, you don't have to travel to work. You can work online. So I'm going to have a discussion with the Minister of Labour and Social Security and ask him to pursue with your president more deliberate and instrumental strategies that we can use to leverage the incredible resources that are in this room. I have pointed out one to you already, which is the recommendation of a member of your group who could assist in the planned review of our disaster preparedness and response strategy. And there are many areas of government that need this kind of systematic review so that, we might think we're doing well, but we're not seeing all the gaps. And it's important to have people who have knowledge and experience who can oversee these things and give guidance and recommendations to the government. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have been a wonderful audience. You have listened attentively. Nobody has drifted off. And I noticed that there was a lot of note-taking taking place. So I know whatever I said is not only recorded on tape, it's in the minutes of this meeting. And I know that if I come here next year, and by the way, I gather I'm the first Prime Minister to address this group. So I know that if I'm invited next year, it is not your president who will be giving the annual report. It will be me as to what was promised and what was delivered and the progress update. So, my mother is a pensioner, and she calls me quite regularly, and I have to take pen and paper because she's telling me everything that is happening in the country. And I know as pensioners you stay tuned and you stay informed and you are very much tied in to the development of the country. So I feel, always welcome, and I feel a distinct privilege to be amongst you and to be able to absorb and learn from this group of wise and experienced elders of the society. I thank you.